news comes first. This is ABC-7 Extra.
Good evening, I'm Saul Sainz, and this is ABC-7 Extra. Friday, one of El Paso's biggest shopping destinations opened its doors, signaling a glimpse of the road to economic recovery. Cielo Vista Mall is just one of several companies that jumped at Governor Greg Abbott's call to open Texas for business and restart the state's economy. The Texas economy, like other states, has taken a beating with thousands filing for unemployment following the COVID-19 pandemic. Tuesday, Mayor DeMargo and County Judge Ricardo Samaniego lifted the stay-at-home order but left intact the mandatory face covering order when visiting businesses and restaurants. Under the new order to reopen, certain businesses and services must adhere to the guidelines which say they can only permit 25% of the business's capacity, and everyone inside the business must maintain safe social distancing. Tonight, I'll ask my guest if they believe 25% capacity is enough to turn a profit and if they believe businesses are prepared to follow the strict guidelines. Joining us now is Cindy Ramos Davidson, Chief Executive Officer for the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Also joining us is Leo Duran, Vice President of the Texas Restaurant Association. I want to thank you both for joining us this Sunday evening. And I'll start with you, Ms. Davidson, Cindy Ramos Davidson. What is the outlook for businesses if they open under these conditions, only 25% capacity?
Well, we did a current survey, and 49% of the businesses that we talked to said that they were planning to open, and 43% said they weren't. 8% said they had not decided yet. And one of the factors in terms of making that determination was based on that 25% occupancy. And it ran all over the gamut in terms of whether or not they could even make any additional revenues they needed with the 25% and whether or not it was worth it or not. Some of the businesses felt that it was, and some felt that it just wasn't going to be enough for them to reopen, and they were going to wait until the relief was a little more expanded to where they could at least go to the 50%.
Mr. Duran, your opinion on that mandate of only 25% capacity. Can businesses turn a profit when it's only 25%?
I think if it's the smaller restaurant operators, especially those that remained open for curbside, to-go orders, deliveries, etc., that may be something that will continue to work for them. It's really just an introduction into our long road for recovery. It's on a choice-by-choice basis, as the governor stated. It is just choice by choice. If you're ready, jump into it, and if you're not, take a little bit more time. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing two different types of camps. Camp A, which are opening up, and Camp B, those that are waiting by the sidelines to see just what happens in these next 2 weeks. Hopefully it's all positive, that we minimize, that we have minimal impact on any adverse numbers, if you will.
Mr. Duran, since your organization represents restaurants here in Texas, obviously El Paso, do you have any idea just how many restaurants are going to open?
I really don't. As I said, it's on a case-by-case basis, and it's really just up to individual discretion. If you're ready to follow, all the mandates and protocols that are in place, do so. I know that we all want to reflect once we greet our customers again, is we all want to make sure that the guest experience was as before and even better. I mean, to the point where they are seeing visible signs of cleanliness, disinfection, and face masks, so on and so forth.
Ms. Ramos Davidson, what are you hearing from businesses? You obviously took a survey. Restaurants obviously have much more personnel than some of your retailers. Can retailers open at 25% capacity? Some of your smaller shops, the mom and pop shops, can they open up with 25% capacity?
They can, and that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur and the fact that they have to retool and repivot their company. And every entrepreneur is going to be different. Many of our smaller shops were impacted greatly and not been able to open. So even 25% of a revenue stream as opposed to no revenue stream is better. But of course, their concerns is the cost that it's going to cost them to reopen so that not only are their employees safe, they're safe, but also their customers. You know, it's kind of like a saying of a client of mine that told me, everyone in the country, especially here in El Paso, we are building the bridge as we are driving on it. So there is no cookie cutter approach on what's the best case scenario to be able to open a business. And everybody needs to just make sure that what they do is they do follow the protocols. We do have a reopening, restart, reignite strategy here at the Chamber, and we have a manual that we're going to put online in the next day or two that covers things like workplace safety and what's necessary. Because going back to work into any business, you have to go through and look at everything that a customer is going to touch and what you have to do to clean that in order to make sure that you put in all the safety protocols. It is a whole new way of pivoting in opening business all across the country, especially here in El Paso, but it is doable. It can be done. Each business member, though, and each business owner has to take that time to look at what those touch points are, because we are really going into what we call a low-touch economy. It's not going to be like it was before, but it can be better, it can be safer, and it can be cleaner. We just have to make sure that we don't rush to it too quickly, that we haven't thought through what those processes are. But your question was about the smaller shops. You bet. They can reopen if they're smart and they think through what those sanitary policies are, following all the guidelines. Make sure they wear those masks.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Please stand by. You're watching ABC-7 Extra. When we come back, I'll ask my guests how long El Paso businesses can operate at only 25% capacity. You're watching ABC-7 Extra, where news comes first.
Tired of sheltering in place? ABC-7 brings the great outdoors to you. All next week on ABC-7 at 6, Nate Ryan has a series of stories from the El Paso Zoo. We call it the Nature Report. Monday, the king of the beasts, the African lion. We'll take you face to face.
An African lion roar can go up to 5 miles.
And show how your zoo is helping revive a species left vulnerable by overhunting. Lions on the Nature Report. Monday at 6, only on ABC-7.
We will get through this together, and here's how you can help.
Share important facts you've learned with your friends and neighbors here in the borderland.
Use the Share tab on the KVIA News app or email us at share@kvia.com.
To let us know how you've been affected by COVID-19 and the Stay Home, Work Safe order.
Or if you know an unsung hero who's done something extraordinary for others, we want to salute people who make a difference when it matters most.
So share with ABC-7, and we'll take it from there. Thank you. COVID-19 has changed all our lives in ways we could barely imagine just a few weeks ago.
From sickness and death to job and income loss, changes to work and school, all our lives have been impacted.
The ABC-7 News team has the same commitment it always has. We're here to inform, not alarm.
We know you count on us to go beyond the headlines and provide important information you need to make smart decisions for your family.
Your trust means everything to us at ABC-7. We will get through this together.
We're not able at this time to gather to worship God and be nourished by God together.
Be united with one another at home, over the phone, and social media.
As Jesus told a man he cured, go home to your family and tell them everything the Lord has done for you.
Pray from your heart, read the scriptures, stay close to your faith leader and religious community, support your congregation.
We are El Paso Strong.
Welcome back to ABC-7 Extra. One of the mandates both Mayor DeMargo and County Judge Ricardo Samaniego, announced for businesses to reopen is that everyone inside an establishment must wear facial covering. But how enforceable is that mandate?
It is, for all intents and purposes, an unenforceable mandate, but we think it needs to be out there, and we're counting on people to take personal civic responsibility. Remember, the wearing of facial covers, mask, whatever you want to call it, protects others from you. It's not you being protected. It's you are protecting others, and that's an individual responsibility.
Now, I also want to welcome back to ABC-7 Xtra our guest, Cindy Ramos-Davidson, Chief Executive Officer for the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Also joining us is Leo Duran, Vice President of the Texas Restaurant Association. So I will pose the question to you, Ms. Ramos-Davidson. Can businesses, and how long can businesses operate under a 25% capacity, or is it something that you will do until we obviously reopen more?
Well, I think you can do whatever you set your mind to do so long as you adhere to the safety protocols. I will tell you, when we first did our original survey, our small businesses could not stay open if they didn't have any cash infusion or customers any longer than 3 months. So we are getting closer to that. If they don't open up and have some sort of revenue stream, they're going to be completely closed. In the last survey we did, 4% of businesses have already had to permanently close. However, we are advocating for everybody to follow the mayor and county judge's rules and guidelines. They must adhere as an owner of a company to tell their customers they cannot enter the store, they can't get anywhere near anybody unless they wear the mask. If they're going to reopen at the 25%, which they can do to start creating some revenue, they still need to adhere to all the safety protocols, because the worst thing to do is open and have to go back and reset the clock again. You'll have that 4% to 40% of permanent closure, and that's not something we want to see or advocate. And so we are very much communicating to our business community, please adhere to the safety protocols. It's different for every type of business. And so we do have a guidebook to help businesses get through. What do I need to do as a restaurant owner? What do I need to do as an employee of a restaurant? What do I need to do as a customer to a restaurant? We've really broken it down to different aspects of a business to try to help be that guiding path as some of them do decide to open at that 25%.
Mr. Duran, I'll ask you the very same question. If restaurants open at only 25% capacity, how long can they sustain a business at that level?
You know, that's a very low percentage, and again, I feel it's beneficial to anyone that wants to test the waters. I believe, as Ms. Ramos-Davidson said, it's really about entrepreneurship and also about having safety protocols in place and abiding by them. So it's rather difficult. The restaurant industry is very unique. In the fact that it being the second largest private sector employer in the nation, it's also operates on very thin margins. So restaurants normally can survive, I'd say, about maybe 30 days average to about 3 months. But cash infusion is critical. And that's where a majority of restaurants are. It's going to be a long, long recovery for the restaurant industry. There's a lot of things that would need to be addressed, and that starts from the current PPP program, so on and so forth. But also, the Texas Restaurant Association has been very instrumental, very involved in the National Restaurant Association.
Mr. Duran, let's use as a point of reference L&J's. How long, if you were to open up at 25% capacity, let's use your restaurant as a point of reference, how long would you be able to sustain that only at 25% capacity?
Not very long. I'd say maybe.
Why is that?
30 days, to a month and a half. You have fixed costs, so there's fixed costs that are not going to wait for you. You have business insurance, you have property insurance, you have utilities. You have a lot of fixed costs in place, and those are things that have to be addressed. You have got to pay those, insurances anytime, and more so now. So it's very critical that the cash infusion part is received by businesses.
Ms. Ramos-Davidson, are there any programs in place to help businesses that at the very least open at 25% capacity that can help these businesses out be sustainable for an extended period of time at 25% capacity? Is there anything in place?
When you say help in terms of cash infusion or ideas on how to open?
Well, let's ask Mr. Duran, what sort of help would you all need if you were to open up at 25% capacity? Let's use him to try to give us an idea of exactly what would be needed. Mr. Duran?
Well, the cash infusion would be critical, as I mentioned before. That is really what is the lifeline right now. And also staff. As we pretty much all have heard, there are some critical components of the business, of the unemployment insurance, and that right now with the stimulus add-on of $600, some employees, most employees are making more money out and about without having to report to work. So that's going to be something that most businesses are going to face and are facing from restaurateurs that we're speaking to.
There you go, Ms. Ramos-Davidson. That's what businesses need. Do we have some programs available that can help these businesses?
Well, there's lots of programs out there from a state, city, county, and federal level. You know, Workforce Borderplex Solutions has a lot of opportunity there for businesses in terms of requiring employees. Through our pipeline at the Chamber, we have a lot of agencies who put people to work. We have connections and touch points throughout the country with different financial lenders, non-traditional lenders, fintechs that are lending money, social organizations, other kinds of groups out there. It's difficult for us to pinpoint to any one thing because every business owner's needs is different. We would ask that they call our office and see what we can do to try to help them make that connection, because we do understand better than anybody that cash is king right now. Trying to garner that cash is not easy, especially in the process that everyone's been trying to do through SBA and through the EIDL loans and through the payment protection plan. The poor lending institutions all across this country, especially our community banks, have been slammed with responses. They're trying to do everything they can to lend money out to businesses. And so our job is to try to be that informer, that communicator, that educator, that connector, and try to be that interlink between what they need and how they need to get it. Okay. Because we recognize that's what they need to have to survive.
At the very least, we're starting the conversation. We're going to take another quick break. You're watching ABC-7 Extra. Still ahead, U.S. Congresswoman Veronica Escobar believes it's too soon to reopen Texas. I'll ask our guests for their input. We'll be back.
Our drive-thru is still open, 24/7 as usual. And as we all adjust to this new normal, we've also kicked off curbside pickup for online orders from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So instead of walking your order to your table, we'll walk it to your car. Just because we can't be close doesn't mean we can't be neighborly.
GECU is the know-how partner that will be with you from start to finish. Use the Home Resource Center for useful tips and information. Talk to a loan officer in person and in our personal office at any GECU location. Or if you're ready, apply online, anytime, anywhere. We can help you make home happen. Imagine the possibilities.
ABC-7 is hard at work to bring you stories you won't see anywhere else about how the borderland is responding to COVID-19. We showed you exactly how a coronavirus test takes place.
You can just look straight at me, that's perfect. There we go.
Introduced you to a survivor who was treated with hydroxychloroquine.
The difference was about 2 days later.
Let you hear a Las Cruces man share his gift of song with people in a retirement community. Important stories you won't see anywhere else.
On August 3rd, a young man filled with racial hatred sought to destroy and divide our community.
Instead, we came together in unity and mutual love.
COVID-19, this destructive virus, now poses a new threat to our community and its members.
It is time for our community to come together again.
If we make sacrifices now by adopting safe practices, we will defeat this new threat. Once again, we will be a model to the nation.
Together, we are El Paso strong.
Welcome back to ABC-7 Extra. I also want to welcome back Cindy Ramos-Davidson, Chief Executive Officer for the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Also joining us is Leo Duran, Vice President of the Texas Restaurant Association. I want to read you both a statement that was released by U.S. Congresswoman Veronica Escobar. Essentially, it says, quote, "The primary obligation of every public official is the health, safety, and welfare of the residents we have the privilege to represent. Governor Abbott's decision to prematurely reopen Texas today, or Friday rather, is a dereliction of the fundamental obligation. Texas and El Paso are facing a global pandemic that has devastated lives in our economy. And while we are eager to return to normalcy, we must recognize that before that can happen, we must adequately address the health challenge that caused the economic crisis. Now, I want to ask you both, what do you think about this comment that was made? And I'll start with you, Ms. Cindy Ramos-Davidson, that perhaps we are jumping the gun. Your thoughts?
Well, I can certainly respect Congresswoman Escobar's comments and everyone's comments. That's the beauty of living in America, and that we all have an opportunity to voice our concerns. From our perspective, we don't have the right answer. Our role is to be a communicator of what our businesses are telling us, and being able to communicate back to them how they can open and do it effectively and safely. There are many of our businesses, based on our survey that we talked about earlier, 49% are planning on reopening and 43% are not. 8% haven't decided. So you can clearly see within our membership survey, there is a split between those who should and those who shouldn't, and those who are opening. I think our regard to being able to help guide them is to utilize our leadership, our elected officials, both on a city, state, and federal level, provide them the information and let each individual entrepreneur make their own decision, hoping that we're giving them the best information to make those decisions. You know, we basically look at American exceptionalism. Basically, we are Americans. We need to take care of each other. We need to make sure we're good. Otherwise, if we don't have employees, we don't have businesses. But at the same point, we need to look at options and be able to figure out what we need to do in a safe environment, and certainly respect all the comments that come in from everyone.
Mr. Duran, your thoughts, are we opening up too soon? Are we at risk of perhaps spreading the infection rather than trying to control it, weighing dollar signs versus vital signs?
With all due respect, again, to the Congresswoman, position, you know, everyone has a buy-in. You know, the governor allowed the industries to open only after careful consideration with top, you know, medical experts, health officials, restaurants of all sizes, and the Texas Restaurant Association, National Restaurant Association. Is it too early? Well, is it too early? Is it too late? You are going to have people that are going to have different opinions. And I personally respect the fact of our healthcare workers and our first responders. I have a daughter as a nurse. I have a son, brother, who's a paramedic. So I can certainly understand. I can understand that position, but there's a lot of concern is people are hurting out there. Business owners are hurting. And if we open up properly, reopen properly with safety protocols, and that's what customers need to see when they go out. You know, they need to be observant. They need to comply. And they need to be part of the solution, because it's just not the business owners, staff. It is everyone's responsibility. As has been mentioned, do your civic duty. Wear a face mask out in public. Do what you got to do. Hand wash before you enter a business, and do the right thing. I think if we all do the right thing, we'll be okay. But we must phase in slowly, so 25% could be it. Who's to know? But
Mr.
we'll
Duran,
know in 3 weeks, right?
Right. Mr. Duran, should we self-police, or should there be some sort of enforcement to make sure that people are at the very least wearing their masks?
I think that we should self-police as business owners, because it is a great responsibility to be given that option to open. And what better way to demonstrate is by being a responsible business owner and laying those laws that we believe will make a difference in containing and suppressing this virus.
Ms. Ramos-Davidson, you said, we were talking about how maybe it's maybe too soon to reopen. For some businesses, it's too late. You mentioned some businesses have already closed down permanently, right?
That's correct. 4% of our survey results show they've already had to close down. And just some numbers in the recent lending aspect, as of close of business Wednesday at 5 p.m., there was already $90 million of loans approved through the PP program. They ran out of money the first go around. And so when you're looking at those large amounts of numbers, the need is great for small business. And so, yes, it is not lives over money. That's not what this is about. It's about being smart and thoughtful for survivability for a lot of businesses and how they have to re-navigate, retool, repivot everything they're doing. It's not going to be business as usual. And each entrepreneur, and I agree with Leo, each one of us in leaders and roles has to lead by example. Do not let customers in if they're not adhering to your protocols. Have a sign on your front door that says these are now the official rules for our entryway. If you don't follow them, I'm not going to serve you and I'm going to ask you to leave. But it's going to be up to each one of us to do those protective protocols. It is like I've said before, it is like we are building the bridge as we're driving on it. And everyone has to think about that because it's not going to be like it was before. Safety first and then customer support.
Ms. Cindy Ramos Davison, Leo Duran, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. It's been great, and hopefully a lot of folks will listen, and maybe perhaps more businesses will survive. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us. I'm Saul Saenz, and this has been ABC-7 Extra. Good night y buenas noches.